Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 26, 2026 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. I've made it my life's calling to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day to day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things, I do want to tip my hat to Storm. He is the primary moderator that sticks in the background and takes care of the tech to make sure it's all running, as well as keeping an eye out for problem children, to make sure they're not a problem for very long. Now, we also have Samo is in, Samo Rockstar Mod is in, and he is another one of our moderators that comes in to make sure that the room stays calm, because this has to be, in my eyes, it's got to be a safe zone for everybody. Okay, so those of you that decide you're coming in to try and create a problem, rest assured I've already asked the moderators to make sure you're looking in from outside. You will be able to get back in, but if you keep doing it too often, they're just going to simply pop you out and leave you there. Now, let's just scroll down, and that is where we are standing right now. Okay, now, that said, today we are looking at the art of debt freedom. Okay, and what I mean by that is very simple. Okay, whoop, that's bad. Okay, and there we have Kira Ava, another one of our moderators, coming in to ensure that the conversation keeps going, and if there are questions that come to mind, she'll pop extra ones in as well. Okay, and for pity's sakes, guys, if you've got a question, absolutely pop it into the chat room, but please do so in all caps so I can find the thing. Okay, we are making headway and things are growing. I was in when I was doing a day in the office today. We actually had 17 people in the room at the same time. It just blew me away. But that comes on at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, 4 p.m. PST, also from Friday through Tuesday. I take my weekend on Wednesday and Thursday. Okay. And there we have LA Moon has joined us. She is our primary moderator inside the chat room and has a tendency of, like the other moderators, keeping this place safe, keeping the communication lines going, right? But in my eyes, one of the most important factors is she keeps a real close eye on my physical health, so we can bypass this thing and my dropping dead on site. Okay, I mean, it's inconvenient, but I get told that it's inconvenient for some people, or more so. And we have Kitty Cat is in with the gold. How you doing, Kitty Cat? The nice part about it, we're looking today at the art of debt freedom. So let's get one thing out of the way. There is this. I was going to call it a delusion, and really it is. But there is this misconception that in order to handle your finances, you have to have a budget. I'm telling you, a budget only works when you've actually got a stable sort of income, and I mean the same money coming in every month. Now, this is why governments don't run balanced budgets, in spite of the fact they keep yelling that we should have them. Corporations don't run them. And I have not been able to get through to any of these people. You don't run a budget if you don't know how much money you've got. However, Oh, and there we have Operation Shutdown has come in with the silver. How you doing, Operation? Glad you could join us. Oh yeah, that one blew me all the way there, Operation. 17 in the room. I thought I saw 22 at one point. But I'm telling you, it was just weird. Weird in a good way. But no, I have not been able to get through to any of the business owners that I deal with. That look, you don't run a budget without a static income. Okay, you track what you're doing and make sure that you watch where your spending goes, because you can modify how much you're spending without a problem. Okay, but the art of debt freedom is simple. It's really weird. Okay, most people don't seem to get this. When you spend less than you earn, you will get out of debt. Okay, and the bottom line marker you look for, and this is the same one I personally look for. You look at your bank balance. Make certain that your bank balance is always month in, month out. Always check it on the first of the month. Okay, and make sure you are at least 1 penny higher in your bank account than you were at the beginning of the last month. With your credit cards, lines of credit, whatever it is, make sure you're at least a bare minimum of 1 penny lower. Okay, the reality of it is, by doing that, although it's a very small number, it's still going to work your way south. It's going to work your way towards the balance point. And what we are looking at this point is, and this is just the path I'm using. I'm not the best financier on the planet. Matter of fact, I'm probably one of the worst. And yes, here's where we get it. Okay, twice being bankrupt, never put any thought into money. It was like I was taught I didn't deserve it. Many of you probably were taught the same thing. I finally got to the point that I went, actually, I do deserve it. Okay, and now I'm going to have it. So now, as I work through the 2 live streams and the free magazine, which I keep getting sidetracked, I was so tied up today with immigration papers and what have you. We just didn't get anywhere. But at least not with the magazine. But we are building an empire here. Okay, the art of debt freedom is real simple. Now, you're always told, I'm sure you've been told this, that in order to get ahead, you've got to make certain that you cut back. Here's the problem. There's only so far you can cut back. Then you've got to do the other thing. Find a way to increase your income. Okay. Now, I will tell you, I looked at last year, at what I made last year, and I keep getting told, oh, you're not even monetized on YouTube. However, all of my work goes through YouTube, and last year I was making about $150 a month. Okay, because of book sales, because of your guys' efforts. Okay, so no, YouTube didn't pay me a nickel, but I was making $160 a month roughly, which ended up leaving me with food in my house. This year, this January, I've already beaten that. And of course, I cut my overhead. So to cover my own business expenses, I only have to have about $70 a month to cover the 10% share of that. That said, what we're talking about here is how to get out of debt. Now, here's the thing. Okay, first and foremost, you got to figure out where you're standing. I'm not the one to tell you whether you're making enough money to live. Okay, I am the one to tell you, once you take a look at your finances, okay, when you've got to, if you desire to get a handle on your finances and get turned around, you absolutely have to take a look at where your finances are. Don't worry how you got there. This is one of the most depressing things anybody ever gets told. Well, take a look at what you've got for finances and figure out how you got there. Where did you go wrong? I'll tell you, most of you will look at the person going, I have no clue where I went wrong. Okay. And then you get badgered back and forth about you need to know. And the reality is, no, you don't. Okay. This is coming from me. Okay. My opinion, but I've been bankrupt twice. Okay. So it's not like I haven't been where you are. Of course, the stupid part about it is I went bankrupt at the guidance of professional bankruptcy trustees. I'll tell you, this is a bad thing. Okay. And no, I'm not going to give you company names. I don't do that. Okay. For a lot of reasons. Not the least of which is I don't need some jackanini coming to me and going, I'm suing you for defamation of character. Okay. Especially when I'd look at them going, well, if you did your job right, it wouldn't be defamation because I wouldn't be saying anything. I'm thinking this isn't going to go over well. So I am learning to bite my tongue a little. Yeah. LA goes, I was much happier before reading the financial books. Oops. Yeah. Bad news, Samuel goes, I heard 3 times the charm. Yeah, well, if that were the case, I'd have been dead 8 times ago. Okay, because they just don't let me stay there. You know, the funny thing is, like LA goes, if I had $50,000, I wouldn't have a problem. Unfortunately, at one point, I had over 100,000 because I hadn't figured out what I was doing ineffectively. I gave it away. Now I'll get it back, but this time I know what I'm doing with it. And what you look at is first and foremost, there's this toss up. People say, save your money. I'll tell you right now, compare your interest on your savings account and your interest on whatever your line of credit or credit card you've got. Okay. Whichever one. I will tell you this. Your savings account will earn a bare minimum interest. Probably, if you're lucky, 1%. Your credit cards are going to be sitting at anywhere from 10% and up. Most of you are looking at 22 to 29. Get the credit cards put aside, paid off. It is a question of one step at a time. Okay, but it really boils down to a very simple factor. Okay, yes, you do require savings, and there's a lot of things that can be done there. Now, this is why I wrote the book, Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. Okay, and if you go to the stream and to the link at the top of the stream, you'll find a nice little link there that takes you to buymeacoffee.com/Inner Voice J. Okay, all the books that are there are done in hard copy, are available in hard copy or in soft copy. Okay, but what I've done is took a look at it and gone, okay, how do we get out? Well, first and foremost, okay, find out where you're standing. How you got there is the last question you ask. After you get the first part done, how much you owe, what you owe, wherever. Okay, once you know that, now literally focus on taking out the heaviest debt load. But the thing is, you're going to have a number of different sources of debt. Many of you have more than one credit line or more than one credit card. Okay, one of those you're going to require to run your house. In today's world, it seems credit cards are necessary. Okay, and I'm not going to tell you, throw your credit cards out or, you got to cut them up and get rid of them. Here's a neat little trick I learned from somebody. They had, I think, 18 credit cards at the time, and it got out of hand. Can't picture why. Okay, but what they did was they took each of their credit cards, took each one of the ones they weren't going to use, and instead of cutting them up or canceling them, which, by the way, punches a hole in your credit rating. Some of you, that won't matter to. others it will. Okay, I look at my credit rating simply because it's an unbiased form, it's an unbiased source of data that tells me where I'm standing. But this person, they took every credit card they weren't planning on using, took a piece of card stock, okay, and I mean just a simple file card, folded in half around each individual credit card, and then stuck them in a Ziploc bag with a couple of pebbles. Okay, and you're going, why do that? Well, because you take that Ziploc bag and you set it in a bucket of water. The pebbles are simply to hold it at the bottom. Now, you've got the card stock to protect the cards, okay, inside the plastic bag. Put them in the plastic bag in the bucket of water. Then you take the bucket of water and you stick it in the freezer and you freeze the thing solid. Now, this will turn around. It will stop you from impulse buying because you can't afford to take those credit cards and stick them in the microwave to get them to thaw faster, or put them on the stove and put heat to thaw the ice. So you're going to have to leave them if you really want them back. You're going to have to leave the bucket out until all of the ice is dissolved. Otherwise, you shatter the card. Bad idea, really hard to get them to be used. Okay, but it stops the impulse buying thing. So that's first and foremost. Okay, then what you turn around and do is go, okay, this is where I'm standing. I now have my credit cards controlled. Like I said, keep one because in today's world, it's kind of a necessity. Okay, I don't recommend going into debt. As a matter of fact, you can actually earn money with your credit card. Okay, I know you're sitting there going, you can't earn money with a credit card. But like I keep telling people, do me a favor. Don't tell me what it can't do. Okay, I mean, absolutely. If it's a legal law and it's on the books, let me know because I don't feel like doing the vertical bar time. You know, but when you take a look at it, okay, when you've got money in the bank, let's say you got $100 in the bank that's clear, and you've got to go and buy groceries. Plus, you've got a credit card that's got the $100 clear on it. Do not use the money in your bank. Use the credit card. But don't go over the amount of money that you've got in the bank. Because here's the thing. Credit cards on the whole usually have a 21-day grace period. So you you use the credit card, pay the $100, okay, and within the first 14 days, pay the credit card off with the money in the bank. Okay, you haven't paid any interest, and you've made an extra 1%. Tiny money, but tiny money is so much better than none. Where are we here? Well, absolutely. And Samuel's just corroborating what I was saying about the credit card. And the fact of the matter is, if you follow this method, I'll tell you, I was way in debt. Okay, in a bad way. And like I said, I made the wonderful choice of going bankrupt twice. I'm telling you, that doesn't ever do anybody any good except the bankruptcy trustee. Now, I will put this out to you. Okay, I've been consulting for 50 years now. And if you're on the verge of bankruptcy, okay, yes, sad to say, guys, I do charge, okay, at a mind-boggling $20 every 15 minutes, aka $80 an hour, which is so much more affordable than the over $2,600 an hour I've literally been paid for the same thing. Okay, now the other thing is when you're looking at building a pantry, at stocking a pantry, I'm telling you, I've made the mistakes Okay, and this is why I'm talking to you about them. The trick to getting out of debt is quit spending stupid amounts of money where you don't require it. Okay, I've literally taken to cooking at home, and rest assured, I am not what you qualify as a decent cook. Although, having gone to the hospital, I have figured out something really wonderful. Okay, I can actually almost cook like a gourmet when you compare it to hospital food. You know, one of the neat things that I found out about about the whole thing around getting debt free is the less money you owe, okay, the better off you're going to feel. The clearer your mind is going to work, and the more effective you're going to function. You know, this is all interrelated. Okay, the other trick to getting debt free is take a look where your office is, and that's wherever you work on your finances, wherever you work on your organization. Okay, sit down, clear that area completely, make it devoid of everything it doesn't require. Okay, I've done that with my office. I've got 15 feet of desktop here, and in all fairness, it's not enough. But I'll get that rectified sometime next year. Okay, we've already got plans there. But debt free is one of these things. Look at what you're buying. Okay, if you can postpone it. Okay, if you can postpone buying something, like for instance, you desire a microwave, and you don't have the $150 to buy it. So you go down to Rentone, and I've seen people do this. Oh, I can pay $20 a month, right, or $5 a week, and have the microwave right now. Of course, you're going to pay $5 a week for a year. Okay, also known as $250 for a machine that costs about $100 to $150. When what you do is take a look at the item you're aiming at buying, and if you can do it, and that means if it is not a critical issue. Let's face it, microwaves are convenient, but we used, we were using stoves to heat stuff way before microwaves were invented. Yeah. LA goes, I visit my bank account several times a week, as often as scammers blow through. It'd pay too. The funny thing there is I'm usually into mine once a day to make sure, because I don't trust tech. I don't trust a lot of things. Okay. But when you stay on top of it, you can catch the problem early. But it boils down to paying attention to how you're spending your money. Now, with that in mind, debt free it's not only a question of removing the financial strain. It is a question of removing the mental strain. Because I don't know about you, but when I get stressed out, and financials will do that to me. Okay, when I get stressed out, I run into snags. Okay, so what I'm looking at this point is keeping a very close tab on what's going on. Okay, and I know where my credit is right now. But what I've laid out for you is exactly the same thing I'm going to be doing. Or more to the point, it's exactly the same thing I'm already doing. Okay, this is why I say I cannot lead by example. I come here saying this is what you should be doing. Does it make any sense if I'm telling you this is what works? Does it make any sense at all for me to not be doing the same thing? Yeah, LA goes, where banks and governments are concerned, I don't trust it at all. And the reality is, let's take a look at banks for a minute. We're going to ignore the government because most people do anyway. And look how that's gotten us. But take a look at the banks. They're giving you 1, maybe 2% on your investment. What they're not telling you is they're making 15 to 20. Okay, and they're going, oh, we're being really generous. No, they're not. However, if you're making 2% on your money, you're still making more than what you were. So don't worry about what the bank is making on your money. Understand they're going to make more than they're going to give you. Okay, that's literally, yes, it's greed based, but it is what they do. Okay, I'm not saying it's right. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you it's dead wrong. Okay, in my opinion, yes, absolutely, they should be keeping 2-3% of the income, maybe even more. And to put that in perspective, as Inner Voice grows, as my company grows, I'm going to be keeping a minimum, well, somewhere between 20 and 25% of my net profit will stay in my hand. The rest of it will go back to the general public, to the public, in a very set way. I've already got it worked out. One of the things about aiming at debt freedom is not only does it mean you're not paying money for money you no longer have, but it means it's in your pocket. Okay, net result, your stress level bottoms out, and your stress level bottoms out, energy level climbs, your ability to enjoy life is going to climb exponentially. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay, and the reason I put it that way is because, yes, this is working for me. I was asked today why I don't invest in certain markets. I don't invest in them because I've never made money at it in anything but a GIC. Up in Canada, that's called a guaranteed income certificate. Down in the States, they call it something else. But it's absolutely 100% backed. You don't make great money on it, but you still make more than losing on the rest of it. The other thing you got to realize is there are 3 classifications of expenses in anybody's life, whether we're talking household or business, doesn't matter. Okay, you've got your living expenses. And this, by the way, is laid out in the book, Believe in Your Finances, and Follow Your Dreams. It is listed off. You've got your living expenses, which is your rent, utilities, insurances, your food, yes, your savings and holidays. And LA is going what we call a GIC. You guys call a CID. Well, COD. Yeah, we call COD something else. It's a certificate of deposit. Now, you can gamble if you'd like on the stock market or on any company you'd like. I will tell you, my experience has said very clearly, gamble on your own efforts. It pays off. But you got to have the patience and the persistence to make it happen. Many of you don't actually, I'd be inclined to say, you don't know how to get ahead because you've never been shown. That's where we come in here. Okay. On Mondays, we deal with finances here. Or if you drop into a day in the office and you got a question, spit it out. But again, in both events, make certain you put your questions in all caps.
Something to know too about GIC/CDs or certificates of deposit. From what I found during my research, I haven't personally invested in one myself, although Keith has. I think in general, the minimums to start investing or putting money into a GIC or CD, the minimums are a lot lower than they are for if you're investing in stock. So it's a lot more affordable as well as safer if you're just starting out into that particular scene.
And that's very much an accurate account. And again, people go, well, you got to get 10,000 into this investment. That is a problem for most of you. I don't know about you, but I don't, generally speaking, have $10,000 dropped in my lap. Okay, I'd love it. And I'm quite willing to take money if people put it in. And that said, I do owe a real big thanks to everybody that's come along and either purchased one of my books. Purchased? Yeah, that was good English. Yeah, we're going to start speaking gooder English now. But A real big thank you to everybody that's bought me a coffee, picked up one of my books, any of this, or got consulting through me. This is something because I am on disability and CPP, which is government in my government retirement, or getting close to it anyway. Okay, I would rather work and get paid for the effort I'm putting in than get a government check. Although don't get me wrong, I'm not about to turn a government check down. I spent 50 years paying into it. I figure it's okay for me to get it back. When you're looking at stocking your pantry, remember there's this neat little thing they say, "Oh, this item is on sale." Check the original price. Okay, quite often what grocery stores will do is they'll jack the price and then get by 15-20% and then give you a 5% discount. Now, bad news for you, but if they're jacking it 15 and dropping it 5, they're charging you 10% more. And that's real basic math. That's not the actual calculation. LA's just adding to this to us. The difficult part of a CD, of a certificate of deposit, is the high buy-in, and it can't be gotten into for a year to, I think, 5 years. Okay, yeah, I know up here you can do that with the GIC. The lowest you can get, it's not a real high buy-in, but the lowest you can get in for, say, 3 months to 6 months, but your best payout is locking it for a year. Okay, and then what you do is when you buy the thing, and I suspect the CD works the same way, you turn around and you wait when it matures, you automatically get it dumped back into the same GIC, the same CD, interest and all, and just leave it continue to roll over. Okay, it will climb. Now this is something I'll be starting this year again. Okay, simply because I'm going to have the money to do it because I found out how to do it. And the thing is, when you're talking about being debt free, we are talking about being debt free, being stress free. Don't forget, debt is not just a money thing, debt is also a stress thing. If you spent your life like I did, like many of you have, biting your tongue, I'm telling you, the stress level that that's causing on your body is staggering. Okay, now I will encourage you to please use way more tact than I do. I'm setting the bar really low for you. Okay, I mean it's not that hard to be more tactful than I am. Okay, but again, you've got to be true to you. Now what we're looking at is you look at the state this world is in. It's up to you to make the changes. I can tell you that doing it the way that I've laid out is the way I do it, and it's working. Okay, it's just a question of getting ahead of the game, which can be a little tricky, but that's why it requires you get on top of it now, figure out what it is you require to live on. Now, I agree, cutting back works, but don't forget, if you're looking at a 2-for-1 deal or a sale, right, buying 10 pounds of potatoes if you've only got 2 of you in the house may not be feasible. You may not be able to go through them fast enough. So go to a family member, go to a friend, somebody you like, somebody you get along with, and split the cost, and then let them take half of it home and you take half home. Both of you are making money. You're getting, you're saving money, and you're making the communication lock together. All in all, these are little details that you can handle and turn things around. But it's up to you to make the effort. Now, Kira is just going, I think high yield savings accounts may have higher percentages, but those have their drawbacks as well. It's good to research honestly. to make sure they're insured and stuff. And all that boils down to people, because Carrie is absolutely correct on that. Okay, you go to your bank, ask them, is this money insured? What happens if there's a problem? Because and the one thing I found was absolutely a priceless question, and some of them will give you an answer. Okay, is ask them if they're pushing a particular product. Ask them if they bought that particular product. Yeah, absolutely. And understand the numbers I've been dealing with are called simple interest because it's easy math. I used to be able to do the compound interest in my head. I forgot how. And I may just go back to school to refigure it out. But probably not for a while. Because right now I got other priorities where my finances are concerned. But the whole thing with debt freedom is the less you owe, the more relaxed you are, the more energy you have. And I'll tell you, if your stress level comes down, you're much less likely to have a heart attack. And rest assured, I am talking from extreme experience. I see them as inconvenient. Okay, but my understanding is people around me find them annoying as hell. Of course, I've been to hell. It's not really that annoying. But, that's just my way of looking at it. But I will tell you, debt freedom is not just about the money. It's about making certain that you feel that you're actually getting your value out of your dollar. I just heard a beep. Was that yours?
Oh, that was my display. Sorry about that.
Okay. I don't mind it. I just like knowing where they come from.
Yep. It was just my display. It was just letting me know that I need to charge it soon.
I remember we were involved in things, and I mean it's really terrible. You're sitting watching a movie and all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off. That's why I pay attention to beeps around me. Because I'll tell you, there's nothing that ruins an evening like a fire alarm does.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, there we go. LA goes, where food is concerned, if I have $50 budgeted for food, $5 of that is going in the pantry. I currently am targeting having 3 months food in the pantry, 3 months non-perishable food in the pantry. Okay, right now that's where I'm starting. I've already got almost a month there. Okay, but it really boils down to making certain that you're buying food, and if you're buying fresh food, yes, there are ways of blanching and what have you. I find most food, if I'm going to buy it, I'll cook it all the way through and then freeze it. The reason for that is I don't have to worry about whether I cooked it right. It's already done. Okay, and again, if you take that, because of the whole issue of cooking, I'm not good at it. LA goes, my pantry's healthy. Well, mine's healthy. The food's great. None of it's gone bad. We had a loaf of green bread the other day because we just didn't go through it fast enough. And by the way, yes, I'm not kind of prejudiced against anybody's color. I'm not eating green bread. It's just not going to happen. But when we are looking at debt freedom, understand it's not about, hey, Jeff, how you doing? Glad you could join us. It's not about just getting the money back onto a balance point. It's a question of making certain that you've got the money coming in so you can maintain a comfortable lifestyle. Because as long as you're not worrying about, do I have money, do I have the money to buy food? As long as you got food in your pantry and your bills, your utilities and your housing is paid, I'm telling you, you will feel a whole lot better. Now, here's the thing. When you're looking at bill payment, there are two bills you pay before anything else. Well, really, there's 3. Okay. Pay yourself and your partner or spouse 1% off the top of every dollar that comes in. This means 1 penny out of every dollar or $1 out of every 100. Okay, it won't make a appreciable impact on your ability to pay bills. Okay. Now, with that in mind, that's the first one you pay. Second, and I've seen people do it really backwards, but the second critical bill is your rent, your mortgage, or your lease, whatever it is, on your house, not on your vehicle. News for you, people can get around without a car. It's a royal pain to try and live without a roof over your head. Then, number one, utility. And I kid you not, I've seen people do this. Okay. People will turn around and go, they'll go, my power and my cable are both overdue. They're going to be cut off. I got to get my cable paid. Guys, think about it. You don't pay your power, the cable is useless. So the power is first and foremost. Okay. Then you pay everything else. By doing this, and some people will tell you, I'm not paying it until the due date. I'll tell you right now, pay the utility bills as soon as you know they're there, if at all possible. And here is why. You get them paid, you no longer have to worry, are you paying more because you were late, or are you getting cut off? Okay, again, these all lead to that thing called debt freedom. Because I don't know about you, but when you think about it, if you're already paying $200 for your utility for a given utility, and you're late, you're now going to be paying $220 just because you put it off. Now you are talking to somebody that is a professional procrastinator. Okay, as in I've made a life pattern out of it. Bad idea. What are we looking at here? Just want to make sure that I'm not missing something, which by the look of it, no. Okay, now, the nice little part about all this is as your debt lowers, okay, as you follow this path, and if you didn't make notes, go back and listen to it again and make notes, okay, or literally go to the link to buymeacoffee.com/innervoicej and pick up a copy of Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. Okay, the reality is by doing that, you'll end up landing on your feet. Okay. The thing we have to look at, no matter how you piece it together, is that your finances are not somebody else's responsibility. Okay. It really isn't somebody. You can blame anybody you'd like. Point the finger at anybody you want at all. But I will tell you, your biggest holdup is likely you were never shown how to handle your finances. This is one of the things my own parents neglected to show me while I was at home. Therefore, whether you're better at finances or your spouse or your partner are, get whichever one's better at it to handle them, but the other one, bring them in, including your kids, and sit down with them and go, this is what the day-to-day finances are looking like. There's a couple of reasons for this. Most people don't like telling their kids, no, we can't afford it, or telling their spouse we can't afford it. Okay, if you keep them informed, they already know, and they will be better, they will be more adept at handling the fact you couldn't afford it because of what was going on. And thank you very much for that, LA. We are down to the 15-minute mark. Now what am I looking at here? Now, this is something I've seen in a lot of different chat rooms where there's a whole pile of cross chatter going on. I encourage it, quite frankly, because I'm not the be all and end all. In my life, I absolutely am. Okay, and in your life, you've got to be. But there's a staggering amount of beneficial information I see going through the chat room by you guys talking to each other. And in all fairness, I eavesdrop, as in I read what's being said. One of the biggest things that I find is this. I've already made the mistakes. Okay, and I've made some pretty stupid moves. Now understand, true ignorance is when you don't know any better. For whatever reason, you missed the message. You didn't pick it up. Stupidity is you picked the message up, you got it, and you totally ignored it and did it anyway. Hence, when I say I made some pretty stupid moves, I have explained to people how I've explained to millionaires and business owners how to make money work. Okay. And then I turned around and did the stupid thing. Okay. This is where the problem is. Yeah. Samo, I heard it put one day. It was really cute. Yeah. Like for me, it's coffee. Okay. And for many people, it's coffee. But what I was told was this. You have your first cup of coffee to get your head moving in the right direction. Okay. You get your first cup of coffee to get your brain working. Every other cup of coffee after that is to help you deal with the problem children you have to run into in life. I'm going through 50 to 60 cups a day. Figure out how many, shall we say, complicated people I have to deal with. And Jeff goes, Keith, I have a golden rule tattooed somewhere I won't say. And I don't need to know where. Okay. Now, I'm presuming the normal golden rule I know of is do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay. I knew a guy that had a slightly different saying. He went, do unto others as you think they're going to do unto you, but do it first and then split. This is not following karmic law. Yeah, Samuel goes, I don't drink alcohol, so coffee is good too, and anything else goes, even milk. I will warn you, if milk is lumpy, I recommend not drinking it. Okay, I've made that mistake way long ago. Okay, and that's just not an enjoyable thing. Although I did find, I found ketchup and ice cream's a bad mix. I did find that honey and egg is actually not a bad mix.
No!
Apparently, that's not necessarily agreed.
No! Why?
See what I have to live with. Well, at least she didn't hit me. But I'll tell you, that does save money there too as well. If you make something your other half isn't going to like, you get to eat more, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Okay, I know that didn't work well for me. At one point, I was 246 pounds. But as I got my finances under control, my stress level dropped, I wasn't eating as much. Net result, I'm in good shape. Okay, in my eyes. One of the biggest things that we have to remember when we're looking at debt free, this is why I mentioned this right at the beginning. Okay, every month, and I recommend the first of the month to stand because your bank fees have already gone through. Check your bank and make sure you are at least 1 penny higher in your bank account than you were the month before. Where it comes to any credit card, any line of credit, make sure they are a minimum of 1 penny lower than they were before. Now, here's the other kicker that I didn't tell you. I know in my bank, I can go in and set the alert up that says when you get below $100 in the account, give me a buzz, let me know. Give me a heads up. Now, I recently moved out from when I get under 100 to when I get under 300. By upping that alert, it will help keep you on track to drive your bank account up. Okay, very critical if you're aiming for being debt free. But this is all using your money. Now, there are other tricks that you can do to accelerate that, but I figure telling you to go into debt to get out of debt is going to be taken the wrong way. Okay, I've been living in debt for so long, it's insane. Okay, what do we got? Oh, Samo's going thicken the mushroom sauce with milk or crumb chicken. Or crumb chicken schnitzel. Maybe some spinach and butternut. Okay, I can go with the most of that, but the butternut's not going to happen. I'm guessing, Now, I got to ask Jeff, I don't recall if you actually drink. But I will tell you, if you take tomato juice and I do believe it's vodka, you get a Caesar out of it. That is so much tastier than a salad. Of course, if you have too much, you're not going to like it. One of the things that I did find where it comes to debt freedom is this. Set your mind on your goal. Make that a priority. Your stress level collapses. Your mind will clear up and you'll be able to think a little more clearly. Now, that doesn't mean you will. There's some of you, I swear, you could be threatened with whatever that you need to learn to think clearly. And you'll sit there going, huh? By the way, just for your edification, I got asked this one day because I'm Canadian. Okay. And I got asked by somebody. They said, why do you guys all say A up there? Okay. And I looked at the guy and I said, look, instead of, we say hey, we say A instead of huh. And the reason being is it sounds so much more sophisticated. Doesn't mean we're any brighter.
Yeah, but this, folks, is why I sound more Canadian than Keith does a lot of the time. So, that I can vouch for.
See, yeah, like Kara says here, second breakfast is akin to second dinner is akin to second breakfast. This is why I have breakfast, I have second breakfast, then I have brunch, then I've got lunch, I usually have afternoon tea before I have dinner. Okay, and then second dinner and usually a late night snack. Okay, as you can see, I've got a pretty fair chunk going on.
We're at 5.
Yeah, we are now, in LA's just let us know we are back at 5.
Thanks, LA.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, LA. With this in mind, guys, let me just double check this real quick. Tomorrow, which is Tuesday, we are looking into something called Your Home is Your Self-Image. Okay, and we're going to explain that tomorrow. But I will be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific for a day in the office. And then we'll be back at 8 o'clock tomorrow. And this is 8 p.m. PST. Okay, that we will be back to have another run through positive perceptions. This said, thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. And I do hope to see you here. I see you all here along with friends. Okay, next time. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.